Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zack, and for the last week I've been driving the 2026 Chevy Silverado EV Trail Boss. Below me are two electric motors powering this all-electric pickup truck. Now I am super excited to be making this video here today because I've spent a decent amount of time with GM's EV truck line. I've driven the Hummer EV several times. I've done the Sierra EVs, I've done the Silverado EV in work truck and premium trim levels, but now we get to tackle the wild, wacky, crazy cousin of the bunch, the off-road ready Trail Boss. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that all-electric drivetrain. Well, they still make the gas-powered Silverado. If you want a regular gasoline-powered pickup truck from the Bowtie Company, you could still get one. This has not replaced it. It has only added to the Silverado line. Now, this is the max range edition as well, which gets well over 460 miles of range. And actually, as of right now, I have about 90% charge, and it's been telling me 467 miles remaining. So I don't want to say it's very efficient. It has a big honking battery, but a lot less range anxiety comes with these bigger GM products. I never felt much range anxiety with the Hummer EV, the Sierra, the Escalade IQ, all of these large platform vehicles. Because they have such big batteries, that kind of takes the worry out of most of it. Unless you truly are going New York to LA, you're not really going to use 460 miles in a single day. And as long as you have a charger at home, that number is going to reset every morning. The power is great. It is over 700 horsepower. I'll put the exact horsepower on the screen. I don't have it in front of me while I'm driving. But overall, the driving experience is good. Visibility is fine. The downside, and we'll talk about this with the rest of the Trail Boss package, is the fact that it is very large. This is a large automobile, and the Trail Boss gets a 2-inch lift as well as 35-inch tires. So you're a big boy. I have an awning that sticks off the side of my house that goes over part of my driveway, and I cannot pull this down my driveway because I will rip that awning off my house. And so that is how big this is. I had to street park it the entire week. Even though I have a driveway, garage, and a decent bit of property, it still had to go on the street because it just didn't fit anywhere else. It's also very heavy, but we'll talk about that later on. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a completely digital gauge cluster. I'm not a big fan of this gauge cluster. I think it's a lot to look at. I think it's very busy. There's a lot of different colors. There's these notches on the speedometer that are decorative and look cool, but at a glance, it just kind of jumbles up everything that I'm looking at. And so, while it does give you great information, and GM and Chevy have always been very good at that, and I appreciate that, at a quick glance, it's just very busy. On the steering wheel on the left, we do have our adaptive cruise control, which also includes Super Cruise, which is their hands-free cruise control that is fantastic. Off to the right, we have our voice commands, phone options, heated steering wheel, and some selectors. And off to the left, we do have a climate control vent that has a red stripe for the Trail Boss package. We have our power parking brake, our lane keep assist, front, trunk, and tailgate release, gauge dimmer switch, and our trailer brake adjustments. Moving on to the door, we have 2 levels of memory seats, our lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows. Moving into the center, we get our giant infotainment system. Lots going on here. Something you will notice, of course, is that these do not get Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. They do have Google Assistant built in and Google integrated, so Google Maps, Spotify, all of those features are still going to be available. It is just not going to mirror your phone like you might be used to in other vehicles. GM has rolled away from Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in their electric vehicles, assumingly with their ICE vehicles coming next. Something nice about this screen is that we do have plenty of camera options. You can see all the way around the vehicle at pretty much all times, which is very helpful. Again, like I said, because it is so large. We also have our drive modes for my mode, normal, off-road, tow haul, and terrain. This will also encompass that it does have the rear steering stitching for the Trail Boss. Now, this is usually found on Hummer EVs, but they have brought it here for the Trail Boss and the AT4 Sierra EV to help navigate tighter trails. We also have this little energy button here. This will be our boost mode for the maximum amount of acceleration, and it does a fun little sound when you hit it. Our climate controls are also ran through the screen. I'm not a big fan of screen climate controls. However, they haven't been laggy. They've worked well enough, and simple things that are required stay down at the bottom. You don't have to dig through menus like some other vehicles, so I guess it's okay. Down below, we have 2 more climate vents, again with red accenting for the Trail Boss. But then down below, we have our physical buttons for the climate controls. We get dual zone climate, we get fan speed, and that's it. So fine-tuning it, you do have to use the screen. But if you just want to crank your heat up or down, you could do that right here. We do, of course, get a wireless charger, 2 USB-Cs, and cup holders, so we'll do a big friggin' bottle test. And I'm happy to report that the Trail Boss does, in fact, pass the big friggin' bottle test. Then we do get a cubby. We get our center console with a 3rd USB-C. And the seats are comfortable. They have some red accent stitching again for the Trail Boss trim level. And I like them. They've been comfortable over my week with it. Useful. No more thoughts on that. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats. So let's go do a back seat review. All right, let's get in the back of the Trail Boss Silverado. Grab handle here. Closing up the door. And there we go. Obviously, tons and tons of leg room. The interior of the Trail Boss, or just the Silverado EV, is fantastic. So much room. Obviously, this does help add to the ginormous size of the overall truck, but tons and tons of space. Plenty for big boys like me. We do have our heated seat options and more climate vents with red accenting for the Trail Boss. So they even did it in the back seats, which is very nice. However, the red stitching does carry on back here. So very nice attention to detail. We also have 2 USB-C chargers and a cubby. We also have a center console. And of course, headroom is good as well. 5'11", not a small guy. I have plenty of space back here. But there you go. There you have it. However, of course, we do have a very cool feature that requires us to step out here for a second. Pull this up. And then you gotta kind of hop across here and pull this up. Get these seats out of here. Reveals a Bose speaker. This seat belt gets plugged into this little hole there. Then these get folded down. You gotta fold down the headrests, and then you bring these seats down. Gotta go around to the other side. It's a little bit of a process, but gotta show it off. So pull this, and while you're pulling this, pull this down. There we go. And now we have at least a visual access to the midgate. So the next step, you pull these down, and it kind of scares you because it does fall forward, but there's a catch right here. So you push this up, pull this down, and then you pull the rear window out. Conveniently, they have given you, I know the video work on this is pretty terrible, but it's hard to do one-handed. I hope that's better. Okay, so you pull the rear window out. There you go. You push this in till it clicks, and now the rear window is secured inside the flap that is about to come down. Hit this button here, and hit this button here, and now we get to fold. Oh, forgot to put this seatbelt in its protection area. You fold this section down. I gotta get out of the way. And now we have a midgate. The midgate is down. So obviously this is super, super helpful for longer cargo. And my fiance and I did use this for her kayak. Took her kayaking. She loves to get the kayak out when the weather's nice. And so here you go. So with the midgate open, we were able to fit a full-size single-person kayak into the back of the truck. We did have to position it a little bit awkward, sort of sideways, but we were able to do it. It made transporting it so easy, and you can keep the rear window in with the midgate open. So traveling on the highway, we were able to do regular highway speeds because none of this kayak was exposed, so it wasn't going to fly off. It was in here with us, which was really, really cool and made this truck super, super useful. But now let's come around to the back, and we can lower the rear tailgate. Very, very nice. Now you can see all the way up into the truck. As you can see, the midgate is still down. We can open this up and use it as a tailgate stop. So if you do have something that goes all the way up, you need a little extra foot, foot and a half, you can get that here with this. And you could then fold that down and use that as a step to get up into the bed of the Silverado EV. So tons and tons of versatility here with this truck. It looks like it doesn't have a whole ton of cargo space, but it actually does. You just kind of have to hit a few buttons and pull a few levers in order to make it happen. So very, very cool for that. And this tonneau cover is not only very tough, but it also does help with EV range since air doesn't get stuck back here and cause drag. So very, very cool. That is how versatile the Trail Boss Silverado EV truly is. However, we are not fully done with cargo space on this vehicle. Hit it twice here on the key fob, and it will open up the frunk or front trunk. We have a charger up here. This is like a wall charger, so you would keep this at home normally. Tons and tons of space up here. As I'll mention later, I actually landed at O'Hare from a trip. This vehicle was waiting for me, and I ran around the front, put all my luggage up here, and it fit perfectly, so it didn't take up any cabin space, nor was it rolling around in the back bed of the truck. We also do have an outlet over here. Fantastic to see. And then to close it, you hit it once and then hold the second time, and you have to keep holding it. If you let go, it'll stop. There you go, open it back up. That's just for safety reasons. So once, twice, and hold, and there you go. It'll go right back down. Very, very cool from Chevy. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and this is where you will notice the Trail Boss package. So obviously we have the red tow hooks up at the front. We get a 2-inch suspension lift, as well as 35-inch all-terrain tires and special wheels. This, to me, I could take or leave, but honestly, the biggest thing is the wheels, just because they are 8-lug, because this vehicle is so large and heavy, and finding aftermarket wheels that are 8-lug is not very easy. And so if you want to change up the look of your Silverado EV, or you just don't like the standard wheels, here are some of the other wheels that I've driven on other trim levels of the Silverado EV. If you don't like those, then you could switch up to these without having to search down some manufacturer to make 8-lug wheels. So there you go. I do like the color as well. I think the Trail Boss name is a little, but overall, it's handsome. It does the job. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think having driven the Silverado EV Trail Boss for the last week? Well, it's been a good week. I like this truck. It's been very useful. As you saw with the kayak in the back, it's been very, very useful and helpful. You could still use it as a truck. It's a very trucky thing. And this one just looks better. It is off-road ready. It looks a little bit tougher, a little bit more macho than some of the other Silverado EVs or just other pickup trucks available on the market. It rides nice, has good sound system, good technology. Super Cruise is a godsend. The frunk is very, very useful. Overall, it's a good truck. I like the Silverado EV. My hesitation comes with the Trail Boss package. Not that it's a bad package. You get the suspension and tires and hooks and things like that. Just that this isn't a very off-roady truck. I don't really know anyone that's looking to hit the trails and go, ooh, yes, I want a giant, heavy, bloated EV truck. That's just not what I would use this for. And if I wanted a trail rig, if I wanted something to dominate off-road or just be good off-road, there are plenty of other options available on the market, even from GM themselves. I would probably take a ZR2 Bison Colorado over this if I were going to go off-road. If we want to step away from GM, I recently did some pretty intense off-roading in a Ranger Raptor. I love that. It was a great size as well, and you're going to save $30,000. And that truck to me is as macho as you would ever need it to be. I know we're kind of comparing apples to oranges, but I just don't see much of a point to a Trail Boss version of this truck. But hey, If GM thinks that it'll sell well enough to do some R&D and make it a reality, then I'm all for it. The effort just seems just a touch misplaced. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to GM and Chevy for letting me borrow their Silverado EV for the last week. Huge thank you to G. Schmitz for leaving this at O'Hare Airport for me as I was landing from my trip to California. It was right there, right out front. I walked up, got in the truck, and drove home. It was super easy. They are absolutely wonderful. They clean these, manage them, all of that stuff. They are fantastic, and I am such big fans of G. Schmitz, so huge thank you to them. And, of course, the Midwest Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.